The first question is about your names, age, if you don't mind, and nationality.
So, name, I'm Adriana Mascolli Fontes. Age, I'm 44. Nationality, I'm originally from Brazil, São Paulo.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm Alex. I'm 45, also Brazilian.
Also Brazilian. And then we are now in your beautiful boat. What kind of boat is it, and the size and the type and whatever you want to tell us about it?
So this is a Halberg Grassi 53. It was built in 1998. It's hull number 35. Halberg Grassi is a manufacturer of these boats in Sweden, no, as you know. The story I know about this boat in particular is that the first owner sailed across the Atlantic, so he bought the boat in Europe, and then he sailed with it across the Atlantic to the US. And then I found evidence here inside the boat that it probably cruised between the Atlantic and the Caribbean for a couple seasons. Then I know that a second owner bought the boat and took it to Lake Michigan. And he died soon afterwards. And the boat remained on the dry for 6 years, somewhere in Michigan. The widow didn't know what to do with the boat, and it stayed there on the dry for all that time. Then a third owner bought the boat, and I don't know exactly how, but the boat ended up in Seattle. We all suppose it was trucked from Michigan to Seattle. No, it was not sailed. And then he used the boat essentially as a home, living on Lake Union, living in the boat for I think 3-4 years. And that's when he put the boat on the market, and we were happening to be looking for one, and that was 2012, and that's when we bought Pesto.
And you named it Pesto?
I named it Pesto, yeah. It was originally named So Long when it left the yard. Then it became Revelation. I don't know if in between there was another name. So when we bought her name was Revelation, and we changed to Pesto. No, reason being, we were looking for a name which didn't mean anything in particular, or that it meant the same thing in many different languages. That's the easiest, and a word that was also easy to spell in English, in Spanish, or whatever other. Yeah. So that's where Pesto came. Yeah, not much science behind it.
I like to think that is also related to the origin of my family and so on, right?
Yeah,
Italian
true.
sauce.
Yeah, it's Italian sauce. It's bold.
It's bold. It's everything. And so, how long have you been cruising? You bought it in 2012. And maybe where you coming from and going to, if you want to just describe your story a little bit.
Do you want to do it? Or?
No, go. I would just.
So, yeah, we bought the boat in 2012, but the boat stayed in Seattle. Actually, we bought the boat, we were in Mexico. And soon after buying the boat, we went to Miami, and the boat stayed in Seattle. So we used her as our sailing vacations home for 2 years. And then we started cruising, living aboard last year, 2014. I moved in June, and Adriana came to meet me with the kids in the end of July. So in September, we started coming down the Pacific, the US West Coast. So we started in September. By the end of October, we were already in San Francisco, so we had left behind the worst part of the coast by then. It was well into fall by then. And then we slowed down the pace, and we came slowly from San Francisco. We went to Monterey. From Monterey, we went to Santa Barbara, which is a lovely town. From Santa Barbara, we went to Ventura, Alamitos Bay. Then we cruised Santa Catalina Island, which is beautiful. And then we ended up here. We have been here for 2 months already. No? We are preparing ourselves in the boat to go to Mexico. That's the next step.
I think the overall journey that we planned, first when we were living in Miami, we tried to bring Pesto to us. We looked for a company that could bring the how do you call those ships that can carry sailing boats. We hired them, and they had a year to bring our boat to us in Miami, but I guess for destiny
they didn't bring it.
They didn't bring it, so we suited
then
them.
We sued them. We got the money back, all of it.
So our original plan was to leave from Miami, and then from Miami go easily to the Caribbean. And then we were there in Miami, and our boat was there in Seattle. So we decided first we wanted to hire maybe a skipper or someone to bring the boat down to us, at least for some pieces of the way. But then we decided to do it by ourselves and doing our pace and start learning from the very first day on the boat.
Yeah, that's an interesting aspect, because when we when we were about to depart from Seattle, our plan, because we didn't have experience sailing offshore. We had sailed before for many years, but mostly charters.
And vacations,
very contained. And especially sailing down the west coast, which is known to be a rough area, especially during fall. So our idea was to hire a professional to. In the beginning, we thought of hiring someone to bring Pesto to us to San Francisco, and we would start from San Francisco. Then the plan evolved to having someone to sail Pesto with me to San Francisco, and Adriana would meet me there. Then we said, no, let's go all of us, plus a professional,
then they
on the first leg from Seattle to San Francisco. And then when I was in Seattle preparing Pesto, I said, you know what the hell, let's do it ourselves. And it was good. I think it was a major confidence booster for us, no?
But it was one of the reasons that I guess we went slower, because we allowed it to do it as we felt comfortable. I think one of the guidelines for us was we want the kids to embrace it and to enjoy it. And Alex always said, for me, I don't want to scare anyone in the boat. So having everyone feeling safe, I guess, was a major driver for us, and say let's do step by step and take as much time as we need in every single place before we move on.
Maybe you can introduce your kids at this moment. I mean, not introduce them.
The rest of the crew.
Yeah, they are playing. Well, one of them is watching television, the other one is playing outside. So we have two kids. The elder one is Paulo, born in Brazil. He is now, he's about to turn 11 years old, no?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just making sure. And then we have Raquel. She came soon afterwards to Paulo. She is 10 years old now. There is a 16-month difference
9
between the two.
10, yeah.
Yeah. No? So they were both born in Brazil. They have spent. I think Brazil is the country where they have lived the shortest time in their lives, because we've lived in Singapore, then in Mexico, then in the US. And Raquel for sure. For Paula, we'll have to do the math, but Raquel for sure, she, by time spent on each country, she's the least Brazilian. She's probably more Mexican than Brazilian.
Yeah.
So they came with us. We are homeschooling them. Well, Adriana is homeschooling them. I assist sometimes.
Oh, come on.
And I think it's working well, no? We were, I think we were very anxious about homeschooling in the beginning, because homeschooling was actually the main enabler for this trip. If we found out that homeschooling was not working, that in itself would be a reason for us to stop doing it. So that was one reason. The other, we had never done that before, and we didn't know how it would work. There was a lot of learning along the way, I would say, but right now, we were discussing this another day, we are feeling quite comfortable about homeschooling, the way it's going, how much they're learning. I think there was an adaptation on our side, and certainly an adaptation on their side as well, to learn and to allow themselves to be homeschooled,
Yeah.
To not take advantage of the system. Sometimes
That's
they
true.
do.
I think a lot of the planning and the visioning we put to the boat, although this was a retirement plan we had, and originally we said, okay, let's do that when we retire it. There was a point of time we just decided let's do now, because we want to do it with the kids, right? And they were almost at that age that we know in a few years we wouldn't be able to bring them with us. So we decided let's do and make it work now. And I think in some way there were so many expectations and anxiety on what this trip could provide and mean to them, that I don't know if it's even fair, right? It's okay, they are going to spend less time on the screens, they are going to learn so much, they are going to socialize with other kids, they are going to be around the outside all the time. And I think in homeschooling, I would say it's one of the areas where I would say we were more shy, maybe because I felt at least a little bit intimidated by the responsibility. And I always saw homeschooling like a trade-off. Okay, in order to be able to allow us this opportunity, I will need to take the kids out of school. And I felt the weight of that decision, because I think we did many ruptures with the type of life we were living. We both left our corporate careers. We took our kids out of school, but I guess this responsibility, particularly in interfering with their future, and I totally believe we're doing something that it's going to be great for them, and it's going to let many seeds in the adults they will become. But just by breaking that traditional way of education, and I'm not even sure if in Brazil homeschooling is accepted as a traditional way of educating kids. I think I felt scared by that responsibility. So, but as we started doing, I think I think first we went too much on the structure, and we tried to pick a curriculum that would allow them to see all the pieces that a traditional curriculum will do. Of course, that didn't work in a boat, right? Because it's just different type of learning, different type of hours they spend on the boats, different types of teachers. So I'd say almost a year now, I think we feel much more comfortable. We can sense advancement in our kids in many areas where we felt we decided we wanted to put a priority. Just to mention one of them, for instance, Raquel always struggled with the spelling in English. So we have been investing time with her in trying to boost her confidence around that and so on. Math, multiplication,
math
tables.
was a major gap. And that was interesting, because when we were in Miami or in Mexico, in Singapore, we were used to seeing just the outcomes. We would receive the reports from school, we would talk to the teachers, and what we got was what we could see. And when we started educating them, and we started going deeper into what they really knew, we started to see the gaps, and there were gaps. And I think that's where we started to depart a little bit from the curriculum that we had established in the beginning, and we started to put more focus on the gaps that we were seeing.
Yeah, I would say that the gaps.
That is building confidence on them as well. Now they are feeling more confident as they see that they are being able to do math
Definitely. I would say also learning about how they learn. They are very, very different, and that sometimes is a struggle because one wants to do things in one way, the other in the other. And then third, I would say taking advantage of the environment where we are. So for instance, social studies, we came studying the Pacific states of the US because we're traveling among them. And then allowed even us to learn about all the different geography, forests, caves, all the stuff there is around. So I think that became more exciting to us as guides to their education and for them as well. Definitely there's tons of things yet to be improved, but I think we feel confident. And now I don't see it anymore as a trade-off. I see it as an opportunity to help them and just drive even more. So I think that for me it's a milestone I was not even expecting, kind of to have this gift of sharing education.
That's really interesting, because the next question is about the motivation for cruising and how long between the dream and the sail off. So basically the preparation you already kind of answered, but maybe there's some things you can tell us a little bit more about the motivation and maybe making the jump, although there was this fear of, maybe like you said, it was kind of like a trade-off and the kids had to follow you on this, and maybe there's something more around that you can tell us a little bit about the motivation.
Do you want to get started on that, or?
Well, go ahead.
I think motivation. Alex always had the dream of having a sailboat, and he's the major responsibility for us living in a sailing boat today. I think from my side, I always enjoyed very much traveling, visiting different countries, being in different cultures. And even so, we had lived in very few countries before, in some countries before we moved to the sailing boat. I think we were in a point in our lives that we had checked a lot of the boxes. Kind of, we went to great schools, to college. We had a master's degree. We both pursued corporate careers. We had our own house. So all that was great, but it also allowed us to look for what was missing. And I think we were missing, and I'm saying we, we were missing more adventure, enjoying more the moments we had with our kids. What else? Being able to spend more time together and just live life while it was still good.
Yeah, I think, as Adriana said, I think we came to a point last year where, before saying that, what you are seeing here, us here, that was our retirement plan, no? And we knew a few years ago, we knew that we would get to it. I mean, we had reached a certain condition that we knew we would be able to do it, no, by retirement. I had always dreamed of doing it. Adriana was into the dream. We rented sailboats, charter boats many times in the last 10 years. So we knew from experience that we liked it and we wanted to do it. Okay, so that was set. But I think last year we came to a point where, or the years preceding last year, we started to come to the realization that, yeah, it's okay, we could continue to do it on retirement, but that would mean two things. One, we would do it without the kids. And two, from then, 1 year ago, to up to the retirement, probably our life would be a continuation of all the things we had already done. It would be more of the same. So I think when those two things came together, and in addition to that, a series of other things, stars were kind of aligning last year. Everything was happening around us in a way that seemed to be pushing us towards it, and we said, let's just go. So we are not one of those cases that we had been preparing to step on the boat for the last 2, 3, or 4 years. Actually, it was quite.
We're doing that now.
Let's do it now. I remember we told your mother that we were coming on board in
a month before.
Right? Yeah.
But having said that, I think the decision to come was very strong, and we were very sure of that. I think there was no hesitation. Right?
No.
So. We had already the boat, which was aimed to go, as he said, much later on for a sailing trip like that. But so we decided to just leave the life we were living so far. And I was working in a way that allowed me already more flexibility. And Alex was the one that resigned from his job. And I remember, as much as we were sure about what we were doing, I remember crying all the night when you resigned from your job.
Yeah.
And he asked me, are you arrependida? How would you say that? Are you resented? No. Sorry. Are you sorry for your decision?
For what you're doing?
And I said, no, I'm confident. I know I want this. I know it's going to be great for us. But I found this process, the before coming, when you put the feet on the boat, then I think you put your mind, your heart here. But this transition period, I found it very emotional.
That month was very emotional.
And even telling my mom and telling our families, we were happy. It was a dream. We were excited, but we understand. That other people are in very different places. They don't have the same passion, the same vision as we do. So just trying to bring them comfort like for parents, for instance, it's very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. We experience this too, but that's another time. So from your sailing experience so far, or living on the boat, what do you think your greatest moments were so far?
Oh man.
Anything sticks out?
You go first.
Physically, I think one very special moment for me, for us, was to cross under the Golden Gate when we arrived.
The Golden Gate Bridge.
Golden Gate Bridge when we arrived in San Francisco. Kind of, I felt I was not a kid anymore in this project, and okay, oh my God, we did it. We are under this icon. So it was an achievement that we had done, the four of us, and it was also after a long, one of the first long sailing passages we had done. So at that moment, I think it was a big experience. There are other moments, but I would just start with this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, arriving to San Francisco as well was an important moment because, again, to me, I always had in my mind that once we had reached San Francisco, we would have left the worst part of the journey behind us. Remembering that we were coming down the coast in autumn, no? So the weather was clearly getting worse. We were having cold fronts coming from the southwest more often. So getting there was a relief. But there is one moment in particular to me, which was, it was actually two moments. When we arrived to the Columbia River Bar, and we went to Astoria, and 4 days later when we left, actually, because we arrived in an afternoon, but we departed Astoria in the middle of the night. And I remember us, it was a tiny marina, very rustic marina, no, rustic, and I remember us, it was bitter cold, and us, you and I here having coffee. Remember, it was so quiet and cold outside, and I was thinking, gee, what are we going to do? We're just going to live here, go down the Columbia River in the middle of the night, dark, we never sailed here, and cross the Columbia River Bar, which is probably the worst on this coast, no? So having done, so we did it. We went out of the marina, no problems, and then we crossed the bar. And just after we crossed the bar, we had this magnificent wind coming just from the stern. And for the first time we sailed. Remember that? Mm-hmm. And it was a splendid sailing. We sailed for all through the rest of the night with a 30-knot wind coming from the stern, full sails on, Pesto was flying. There was a full moon, so the water was, it was perfect. The water was shining with the moon. It was beautiful. To me, that was the pinnacle, probably. For what it meant, no, I really, that moment I felt that, as Adriana said, we were not little kids anymore in sailing aspects. We still have much to learn, but that was an initialization to me.
I recall it's not one so special in terms of what we had achieved, but I think it was about what we were to achieve. We departed from Seattle, and from the last 2 years we had been sailing a lot around Seattle and all the islands there. And I remember when we were in Nia Bay, which is the very last bay before we really go into offshore sailing. So I remember the anxiety. We spent a few days there preparing, getting ready, waiting for the perfect conditions to come out. And that bay, it looked like a mirror, right? The water was so calm and it felt so peaceful. And we departed at midnight. And I remember us leaving that quiet place and then about to cross the Cape Flattery.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And then it was just a turmoil. I'm sure we had much worse conditions later on, but at that moment I said, oh my gosh, what I have done. What decision, where did I embrace that?
That's when I learned to start choosing better, choosing better the times of departing bars, no? Because essentially what happened there is that we left because Nia Bay is right at the mouth of the Strait of Juan de Fuca, and I think we probably left at just before ebb tide. No, so I think the strait was trying to come out and the sea's coming in, so we had very high waves on the way out.
And I'm sure now we are much more used to that, but it was just, oh my God, did I sign up for this full time? And I remember I had terror, and I was trying not to show it to you, so I was breathing in and out.
I was terrorized as well, yeah.
So, okay, keep calm.
This is actually a good lead-in for the next question, scariest moment. But that wasn't the scariest moment.
No, there was one scarier, I think.
Which one would you say?
For me, I had two. One of them was when on Boxing Day, we left Ventura Bay, and the idea was to overnight in Santa Cruz Island. So we got to Santa Cruz, and we couldn't find a suitable anchorage. All of them were rolly, no? But there was no wind, so the sea was a little rolly, but the wind had died. It was a starry night, and when we left Ventura, the forecast was looking okay for the night. So we said, you know what, this is rolling here, the forecast was okay, so let's just go all the way to Santa Catalina Island. So we departed the anchorage in Santa Cruz around 8 p.m. What happened, and we didn't know, because we from Santa Cruz we didn't have access to the internet, and there was a Santa Ana wind advisory. It had been issued in the afternoon, and we missed that totally. So 1 or 2 hours into the passage, the Santa Ana started to blow, and it blew very strong at 25, 35 knots on the nose. We were not prepared to sail, so we ended up not setting sails, and then we had kelp on the propeller, so we had to motor our way into Santa Catalina all through the night against a heavy Santa Ana. The seas started to build, of course, no, and with a fouled propeller. That was, I think it was more uncomfortable than scary, but it was very uncomfortable. But on the other hand, I think it was a great test to Pesto as well. No, I mean, after that day, being able to motor over 60 miles against a Santa Ana with a fouled propeller, and we did it without a problem. I feel even more confident on the boat now.
Yeah. Thanks God, I would say we have never had kind of a very, very super scary moment.
I had one scary moment. Which also involves kelp. So the story is, when we left Crescent City on the way to San Francisco, we were advised by an experienced sailor to stop on Drake's Bay, just a few miles before getting to San Francisco. Reason being that Drake's Bay is famous for the whales that go in there. So this guy, he gave this image to us that we would drop our anchor and we would have whales swimming around us. No, so that was our plan. We went to Drake's Bay, and just 1 or 2 hours before getting to Drake's Bay, we also had kelp fouled in the propeller. No, but it was heavily fouled. The boat could hardly motor. So we arrived to Drake's Bay, and I had to go into the water to take the kelp out of the propeller. And the water was very murky, so I remember going into that water, which was, by the way, super cold, but with this impression that there could and there should be whales swimming around me. So the very thing that we went there to see as an amusement became really, I know whales don't eat people, but it's still, I mean, the idea of being down there trying to cut kelp from the propeller and all of a sudden seeing a whale right to your side, that I felt scared. In fact, even though I shouldn't, but I felt scared at that moment.
That's true.
Yeah, you weren't in a life or death situation.
No.
And you feel very...
Were we? No, we weren't. No.
Some
Far
people.
from it, no.
Yeah.
No.
And then what about the sacrifices and gains? Now that you've been on the boat, what would you say for quite a while, right?
yeah, it's been nine months or more.
Yeah. So sacrifice. I think one of the things that is definitely a challenge in learning to live together, the four of us, 24/7, right?
Yeah.
In a contained space. Of course, we are in a marina, and we love this marina because of this, because the kids can go outside. We give them radios, so each one can have their own time and space. But I think in terms of sacrifice, I would say it's having more of your own time and routines versus here I feel kind of where we compromise our own individuality
Yeah.
towards the collective of the family, right?
Yeah.
And Alex and I, there was a moment where we said, okay, it feels like we're doing a cruising for the kids. Everything is around what they want, what they need. And we said we should shift that a little bit in the boat and say, okay, this is your time, but there's also our moment, and and we're going to do this for us, not so much for the kids all the time. So I think it's the individuality that it was a sacrifice. But on the other side, there is the gain about having this experience of spending so much more time together. I think between the two of us,
Definitely.
and with the kids, I think all of them are extremely enjoyable. So I personally feel our relationship is stronger, despite being all the time together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're learning even more about our triggers and recognizing when we need space and times by ourselves.
Yeah, so no, yeah, I agree with Adriana. I don't think it's possible to retain the same level of individuality living on a boat, the same level that you had when you were landlubber. It's really impossible, because when you are on land, you are driving your car to work, or even if you're taking public transportation, but you are usually by yourself. You have some time for you at work. Sometimes not everybody's in the house, and you have time for yourself. So individuality suffers on the boat. I think that is something to have in mind. But it's a paradox, because on the other hand, you gain so much togetherness. In our case, I think the fact that we are educating the kids, we started to know them from a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
One perspective that we didn't. We were actually having other people teach them for us. So that is great. For me in particular, I think one major gain is this peace of mind of knowing that we are living a dream. And this was a dream that was not left in a shelf, and it's happening. There is a tremendous, huge, constant, feel-good effect that comes with that. And I'm sure you guys feel the same thing.
Stop a second.
Yep. I'm going to lead into the next question, which is about self-sufficiency and what living on a boat has taught you about self-sufficiency, and if there's anything what comes to mind when you hear.
Yeah. So let me. I'll start with that, Adri, and then you jump in. I think we approached. So when we prepared Pesto for this trip, I think we approached self-sufficiency probably more from a utilitarian point of view. I wanted the possibility to be away from a marina for as long as we possibly could. So I wanted the autonomy to be able to do that. And that meant using natural resources. So one of the things we did, we installed a very large array of solar panels on the boat to keep the batteries charged for as long as we could. And the rationale behind that was that as long as I had electric energy on the boat, we can run the refrigerator, which then enables us to have fresh food for a long time. We can also make water, which keeps us away from the marinas as well. We can run our computers or whatever other entertainment that we want to use with electricity, and that could also keep us away from marinas. So that was, at least to me, I think, part of the philosophy. I wanted to have the boat ready to give us autonomy by using these natural resources. In practice, what is happening is that we are spending all of the time in marinas. So far, I don't know yet if this is based on circumstance, because this is how the coast that we have sailed so far is set up, or whether it's a trend among us here that we like marinas. But my original plan was to stay more at anchor, and I'm still hoping that once we get to Mexico and Central America and even the Caribbean, that happens. Because I think that one will fulfill more this self-sufficiency aspect of our lives, which I think is a good footprint for the kids as well. It's good for them to grow for a few years living off the grid. I think they will grow with this awareness that you can live a great life without having to be connected to the grid. So that's one thing. And the other, that I believe it's more fun when we are at anchor than when we are in a marina. Not that it isn't fun when we are in a marina, but I think it should be more fun when we are anchored on a beautiful bay.
Yeah, I think we're still also learning in some aspects more around self-sufficiency. So one definitely that I think we are expanding now is our vision around provisioning. So we are used to go on trips for 15 days. So our mentality for doing provisioning is still, in 20 days we can reach a grocery stores. And now we're saying, okay, what if we needed to be self-sufficient in terms of food for a longer period of time? What does that mean? What types of food should we be buying, and so on? So I think we're doing some experiments now, and we're buying, by Deborah influence, some dehydrated foods and so on. And having storage for longer periods of time. So I think that's one thing that we can learn more. But also I had a perspective on self-sufficiency that it's a bit of a deviation, but goes with what we're saying at the end, which is around the kids. So we had this aspiration that the kids will spend less time on screens, be less dependent on video games and computers to be happy. But what we have realized that a lot of the times we need to stimulate them a lot. Okay, so have you read a book? There's kind of a 10 list of things you can do right before you go back to playing. Have you played a board game? Have you tried this and that? And it's always up to us to stimulate them to have fun. And one of the aspirations is for them to learn to be self-sufficient, entertaining themselves and playing with their creativity, curiosity, like Raquel did today with her friend, right? Just going to the outside, have some fun together. So seeing some improvement there is, it's a point of happiness, saying, okay, they are growing up on their own way. And a last thing on self-sufficiency, also a deviation from the theme. I think personally for me, learning to have discipline in a boat is important. So there were many things that I was passionate about when I was living inland. So I was passionate about yoga, and before coming to the boat, I did a teacher training program in yoga, so I could learn and do it, practice by myself, right? Of course, I haven't practiced as much as I wanted. Then I also brought my guitar. I took some classes before coming here, and then I wanted to improve my practice on that as well. So I think for things that you do and you want to achieve in a boat, I had this aspiration, everything is going to be different when it is in a boat, and I still struggle with a lot of the things on habits I had before. So in putting discipline in, so for instance, doing exercise and so on, is still a struggle that I have here. So learning to be, to create that discipline, for me, it's still an aspiration.
And then there's another aspect of self-sufficiency, which is that you have to fix everything yourself.
Oof, yes. Yes. And
You
Pesto,
didn't even touch it, right?
yeah. Pesto is a very comfortable yacht. It has everything that a small home would have, including air conditioning. And that comes at a price, and the price is one, money, but the other is this stuff breaks, and they break all the time. Actually, they are breaking less than I expected. I have to be fair to the boat. Now, considering it's nearly a 20-year-old boat, this is Paulo.
Hey, Paulo.
Hello, Paulo.
So, considering it's a 20-year-old boat almost, it has been behaving quite well, I have to say. But stuff still breaks, and yes, we are constantly fixing things. I have been learning along the way. I was not someone who used to do mechanical stuff before. I worked all my career in an office. But we learn. We learn by watching other people do things. So one of the strategies I have, because I don't have the patience to open a book and read and learn how to fix raw water pump on the engine by reading a book. I don't have the patience to do that. So usually what I do when something breaks here, I try to fix myself. If it is, if I feel intimidated by that, I call a mechanic, and then I really watch over his shoulders. And then I learn, and the next time it breaks, I'll do it myself. And another thing I did when I was in Seattle, I was telling this to Radu the other day, I bought 1 day of a mechanic when I was there. And he even joked with me that he was my slave for that day, no? So we went into the engine room, and I told him, I said, teach me how to replace an impeller, how to tighten the belts, and how to change the oil, how to change the filters, and we did all that. We spent the whole day inside the engine room, and I was watching, I took pictures, I took a few notes. That was very helpful to me. Yeah.
And maybe this is a good lead-in for the tip. What would you have done differently so far? If you look back, any things you would have changed?
You want to pass? You want to go the other side? Okay.
I was wondering what's happening.
Oh,
You can sit here, but you need to stand still.
Yes.
You can
You can
listen.
sit here.
You can
listen.
No,
Mas não pode ficar mexendo. Não.
No,
No.
because noise would be just a disruption, dear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It won't be long. It's a few more minutes.
Yeah, few more moments.
So where were
Okay,
we?
what would you have done differently?
Differently. Oof.
I think there's one just to get started. One thing that we learned, socialization is a very important part for all of us, and we always have this concern, particularly with the kids, whether they have friends and so on. And in fact, the meeting Deborah and her granddaughters was something that I have planned with Deborah. Where they were, we have been tracking each other, so we could allow the kids opportunity to enjoy each other. But early on in our trip, we met another family that was cruising and going down to Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a couple, as we do, similar ages. And
Couple kids, so their kids were the same age as our kids. So they were the first boat we met with kids.
yeah, and
We
we
met
met
with them
them
in
early on, right, in
Newport,
our trip, yes. And
Oregon.
we were very formal in getting to know each other, and I think it was too long of a process, right? And we didn't enjoy that much the time we had up front. So I think one learning for us was to have less ceremony. We said, once we meet boats that have other kids, we know it's going to be great for both of them. So let's be less formal and engage
Very quickly, yeah.
very quickly. So I would have liked it if we were to do it differently, maybe to learn that from the beginning. So be more conscious about the opportunities to engage with other boats, with kids. Maybe have done some search up front. That will be one. What else?
Nothing big occurs to me. I mean, the way it's going it's great. I think no, it's a small practical thing. I wish I had done more research on Santa Cruz Island because I really wish we had spent some time there, which we didn't, because and it was my fault. I was crazy to leave Ventura. I wanted to go, so we picked the wrong weather. I didn't research where to stop, so ended up we didn't stay there, and worse yet, we ended up in the middle of a Santa Ana, in the middle of the night. But it's a small thing.
But we are correcting, I guess, as we are having the experiences. So I don't think we have this big regret of.
No regrets at all. No. Things have been working. It's interesting because things so far they have been working differently from what we expected. So, for instance, as I mentioned to you, I expected we would spend much less time in marinas. We thought we would get to Mexico by December last year. It's almost April and we are still here. And yet, it's been great the way it is, isn't it? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool. You described it a little bit before, the moment or the day of leaving. Did you feel anything special when you were really on the boat and you knew that was the day you're gonna sail off?
Well, let me start with this because I do.
I maybe have a less romantic view on that, but let's go.
Yeah, I'll give you some time to prepare. No, in my case, I had more than one departure. Because what happened is, once we made the decision, and then I left my job. Adriana cried the whole night, and a few days later, she went to Brazil with the kids. That is something that we have always done for the last 3-4 years. No, they usually spent the summer vacations in São Paulo.
Plus there was the World Cup.
And then there was a World Cup. They stayed for the World Cup. Blah blah blah. So I stayed in Miami. I closed down the apartment. I put everything on storage, and I was really racing against time because I had full control of my time. It was only me there, so I was really racing. And I came exhausted to the last day. I literally helped the moving company guys to put the boxes inside the storage. And then this one day, it was a Tuesday, I left Miami. So that for me was the first departure. I drove from Miami to Seattle in 5 days. And that is one dear experience, only me. No, it was myself, the car, and whatever we could carry on the car. We used the car as the filter of the stuff we would bring to the boat. And it worked well, because if it fits the car, it fits the boat, no? So that trip in particular, so leaving Miami was emblematic to me. I remember the moment I got in the highway, I even took a picture, I posted on the blog. It felt great. And this feeling of getting into the road, just yourself, paving into your dream, leaving everything behind. I remember it felt really great. When I got to Pesto 4 or 5 days later, that night, the first night I got here, it also felt great. I mean, she was sitting in Lake Union. The water was still as glass. There were still a few sailing boats on the lake. Typical sunny day, summer day in Seattle. It felt great. So that was a second moment. A third moment, as Adriana mentioned, actually no, a third moment for me was when they arrived. I was very anxious because I was preparing Pesto. When I got to Pesto, she was still like a weekend boat or a summer vacation boat, no? And then I started gradually installing stuff and preparing her to become our home. And I was anxious when they came, the day they arrived, whether they would feel like home. And I remember Paulo came and he said that it felt like home. And
yes.
To me that was very important. And then I agree with Adriana, leaving Nia Bay, it felt like a plunge. Because right there, there is Cape Flattery, which is already a famous cape in the west coast of the U.S. You are right in the Pacific Ocean. You are out there, no? So that was a plunge for me.
I would second that also, that I have the feeling of multiple departures. The way I felt departing Miami, I left with the kids before, so I needed to do cleaning on all their stuff and separate what we would put in storage and not. And I think also I want to give a lot of credit to them, because usually they wanted to keep all their toys and so on. And by that time we're telling them, listen, we're going to live in a boat, we cannot carry anything, so you need to cherry pick the toys we're taking with you. And then I remember Paulo, he had a huge collection of dinosaurs since he was little. And Paulo and he decided it was time to move away, and he donated all his dinosaurs, asked to take pictures with a few of them, and kept one. So all that process of separating what would stay and what we'll give away, I think felt like departure from home, from the life in a house. Then we went to Brazil, and I had the experience with them of departure with the family. So there it was much more about
That
questioning, right?
Yeah.
Why you're doing this? How are you going to do homeschooling?
Yeah, she got all
what
the
about
questions.
the safe of the kids? Are you crazy or not? So of course, depending on each one. The good is that there was so many excitement from close family and friends, but there were also the ones that were very skeptical and making the tough questions. And I remember kids crying, they always do when they leave family in Brazil, despite they have never lived for a long period there. I think it's where our roots are. So it was emotionally hard to leave Brazil by that time. And then when we arrived in Pesto, I felt kind of, we're ready, we need to go. So now it's enough, right, from closure. Let's get started. So I remember when we left Seattle, it was, you had been there for a long period of time.
But it felt like a relief, no?
Yeah, we said, let's go. But
Yeah.
then we spent a few days trying Pesto in the closed waters. Like we went to a few places that
Whidbey
we were,
Island,
were used to sail before. So really, Nia Bay was kind of, for me, the official getting started in this sailing, offshore sailing. And that was cool.
Very nice. And last question. Dream destination. I mean, you said a little bit where you're gonna probably go. Do you have a route? Do you have a destination?
Do you want me to?
Yeah, do you want to
To
get
start?
yeah?
I have a couple. I'm looking forward to Mexico. I have read and heard a lot about Baja California and the Sea of Cortez. So I personally have high expectations of that area. I am on the flip side, because from Mexico, we will spend some time in Mexico, and I believe it will be more than a season. Then the idea is to go to Panama, cross the canal, and spend another long time in the Caribbean, 1-2 seasons there. No. So on the flip side, I'm concerned because we have so much expectations of the Caribbean, especially Adriana
Yes.
and the kids, particularly the kids, that I
Everything is
hope...
going to be great there.
Exactly. I
The
hope the
war,
Caribbean lives up to the expectation there is here today. No, it's a great place, but let's see. I still have a dream to eventually cross the Atlantic and make it either into the Mediterranean or close to it. No, at least to Madeira. But that's a dream. That's not even a plan.
But I
Even
guess
though
it's a
dreams
little
tend
bit,
to
it's a
happen.
share,
Yeah,
I think it's a
shared
shared dream. I would love to go to Europe, definitely, if we have the opportunity.
Yeah.
I don't feel at all ready to cross the Atlantic, but the
But you
same
will,
way,
by then you will.
yeah, the
You
same
will
way,
tell me go,
Yeah.
the same way you did when we were in Seattle.
the same way we feel we have been growing, and I was not comfortable with what we're doing now a few years before. So I hope we make it someday to Europe. And as Alex said, I love warm water, and we have sailed twice, right, in the Caribbean, and it was gorgeous. So I'm very much looking forward. I'm sorry for the expectations, because everything that it doesn't work right now, we say, okay, but when we arrive to the Caribbean, it's going to be different.
The Caribbean is like the solution to all the problems we have on board.
And then beyond that, I think it's really, so we already have a vision for a future, which could be Europe. But beyond that, I think it's to be explored. We have not even started yet.